All right, so we can get started. We're almost at 70 participants. So we're at 70, so let's get things started. My name is Jessica Wright, and I'll be fake moderating today's event because Tom is taking care of everything, and I don't really have to do anything except enjoy this great presentation. So just a little about me. I've been with Corning for almost 6 years now. I spend about 70% of my time with campus and events. I primarily manage our talent community, so if you've ever been to our booth at a career fair, you'll have received follow-up emails and newsletters from me. Just a few housekeeping notes. Everybody has been placed on mute on entry. We do ask that you remain on mute for the duration of the presentation. We do want this to be interactive and engaging, so please feel free to send questions and comments in the chat. Tom has a really fancy setup, so he'll be able to see those questions as they're coming in. I am really, really excited that Tom has offered to present during our summer series. And for today's presentation, which is part of the weekly series, Tuesdays with Tom, as you can tell by some of the banter in the beginning, you're in for a really good presentation. So I highly recommend you attend as many of his presentations as possible.
Wow.
Today will be, this is a big shoes to fill now. So. So today we'll be presenting how to thrive in uncertain times. So as we're all experiencing uncertainties during these uncharted times, Tom has some really great content on how you can keep on thriving both personally and professionally. So with that, I would like to introduce our presenter, Thomas Clark, who works at Corning as a Learning and Leadership Development Manager. And take it away.
I'm just hearing that virtual applause across all the folks that are chiming in here. First, all kidding aside, I really, really appreciate you coming. You don't have to. You could have done something else, maybe something that might even seem like a little bit more fun or interesting, but I'm glad you're here. And I'm sorry that it's under these circumstances. I wish it were different. I wish we were not in the cycle that we're in right now and trying to navigate through really daunting times, across the globe. In the US in particular, isn't just COVID-19, which has disrupted everything. Now we have systemic racism and issues and challenges in corporate America of how we adjust to that and how we react and how quickly we respond and how quickly we actually take action and do something. So we have that happening. Then we have a little downturn in the economy because of COVID-19, and we have plans to return if we can, when we can, to some sense of a new normal, and we don't even know what that is. So it really is uncertain. And for all of you, you're probably having some uncertainty you're facing yourself. Maybe you're trying to figure out what to do in the summer. Your summer jobs were put on hold, your internships were canceled or diverted. I don't have all the answers for you, and I won't have them. But I will give you something to think about. All right, and that's what I would ask you to do, is to join us, to have a little bit of fun. All right, so let me jump right in here and get moving along a little bit. We do this all the time. Things that we share here, we try and keep here as much as we can, especially if we're telling stories and things that are relevant to individuals or people within the Corning family. We try and keep it that way, which you are part of as well. The way we'll run this session, pretty simple. Doing a quick icebreaker here in a moment. With this many people, I'm assuming we're over 70 now, I'm going to guess, and growing, because people are hearing about this everywhere and they're going to want to come in and join us, like Facebook Live, and just keep on throwing up the little heart emojis. I want to see those kind of floating up there too. Do a little icebreaker, then we're going to talk about 3 buckets of content: managing self, thriving at work, and creating your future. All right, and we'll try and make them personal to you. This particular event was, or this content, this deck, this training, and that's what I really hope it is, it's not a lecture, was created at the request of someone in our commercial operations who called and said, listen, my team is struggling. We're trying to figure out how we navigate. And as I talked to my colleagues, and this was a few weeks ago, maybe even a month and a half ago, where their team was just struggling, and they could actually sense some anxiety and apprehension in the voices of their folks and some of the way that they were working, not as productive as they were, just questioning. We had layoffs that were announced. We've had pay cuts that have taken place for some. We've had furloughs for others. It's public. That's really painful for people that have been here for a long time. You know, when you see your friends go home, or you get a paycheck that's different than it was the last time, and you're trying to figure out how to make it work, it can really create uncertainty. So that's how this thing was birthed, and it just has taken wings. We've made a video series from it out on the Learn Local Connect Global site. So if you guys have access to the Blue Line, there's a group called the Blue Liners Group, and in it there's a Learn Local Connect Global little tab that you drop down, and you can access it virtually from your phones. And there's several different components to that particular series. You know, I do one of them. This was the impetus of that, thriving in uncertainty and then leading in uncertainty, or leading a virtual team. There's a few of them. If you aren't tired of looking at my ugly mug, there's about 8 videos that I've done, which are hilarious. Little insight. Like I did 6 of the 8 all in one day, and it looks like they were different days because like I tried to change my shirt to like look like I was doing them over a period of time. And even
So
worse was I had a dress shirt on with the Corning logo and a pair of running shorts. So try and get that visual out of your head. So the icebreaker, here we go. Now we have to do this a little different, right? Because we can't all come off of mute. So a lot of it we're going to use the chat window. So if you're not in it yet, I would ask you to get in there. If you're not familiar with how to do that, if you click into the WebEx and mouse over the bottom, there usually pops up a window where you can click on the little chat emoji little icon, and that'll open your chat window. You also can expand it so you're not just looking at 1 or 2 little sentences. Just click and drag the panel open up in the top. All right, so the icebreaker. I just need a couple here. Let's see what you got in your stories here. Oh, sorry. Wait, sorry. Rules of the road. Your cameras need to be on. If I have to, you have to. I would appreciate it if you do. We're going to use a chat function to share thoughts, ideas. We're going to have a discussion. No stress. This is meant to be a time where we just get together. So family, friends, pets pop in, then they're welcome to participate, right? I've actually had that happen where right in the middle, someone's walked in and had two of their children fighting over a piece of candy. So we got to enjoy that one. Write a couple of things down. You will forget. I promise. I mean, we're not meant to remember all of these particular things in a particular order. And not only that, but some of them just won't matter to you. I'm not offended by that, but something will. And it could be 1 or 2 things. It could be something you put into your routines. That's what I would say you write down. All right, and the last one is happy hour has commenced. So let's be happy. I will not tell you that in certain cases we actually did this at happy hour and we made it happy hour and people had beverages in cups like this. We just didn't tell what was in those cups. This is not appropriate for you. I'm just telling you how we work it in Corning. I think I told you I'm the Learning and Leadership Development Manager for Corning Optical Communications. So this is the smallest division in the company. Come on, man, laugh. We're the biggest one. We have the most people. Maybe not revenue, but we have about 25,000 employees in this particular division, and it's called the telecommunications telecom map, our market access platform. We make fiber. We take that fiber and we cable some of it. We sell some of it. So basically, we make connections so the world can make them. You know, that's our little tagline, and we try to enhance life, especially now. Think about all the people working from home. Fiber has become more and more important. I saw our product being put in the ground by AT&T in my neighborhood. It was pretty cool to walk outside and see fiber going into the ground that was made really right up the street. So pretty cool division, pretty cool to work for. Some of you were attached to that, others weren't, but it's still the greatest place to work in the company. I want to know what the laughter's for, but we'll take that offline. All right. So during this time, we've all been stuck at home. We've all been stuck in offices like I just showed you mine, right? Like, what's the funniest thing that's happened? So in your chat window, like, were you in a meeting and someone popped in, or did you use the wrong words, or did you have your video on and didn't know about it? Any funny stories that you guys want to share in that little window that you can share with the group? So yeah, Lally announced he pooped in it. Yep, love it. I was there. Call the fire department. I love that. Trying to teach the cat to play fetch. How's that working for you? I'd like to know more about that one and how you're doing. I know that my stepdaughter's been trying to teach her cat to actually go to the bathroom on the potty. Limited success there. Anybody else been talking to their TV more often? Oh, now we're getting some insight into our mental and emotional stability. I like that. Non-technological dad. Yep, I get it. So look, all of these things are true, right? I mean, I've heard some funny ones where, kids have just walked in and, just yelled something inappropriate. I've been on those calls too. I can't share them exactly, but a lot of funny stories. It's just the way that we're working. And I think what's happening is we're adapting to a different cultural phenom within our virtual work. So in the past, when someone would walk into my WebEx meeting on camera and ask me if I was on the phone, even though they could see me presenting, it would be like everyone would be going, oh, right? That's not the case anymore. I think now we're kind of expecting it, right? We're expecting things are going to happen. I was doing a recording yesterday with one of our PLM directors for connectors and micro optics. Her name is Gabriela Medellin. And we're doing this series called Profiles in Leadership, where we highlight people that are working from home when they tell their story, basically. That's another something you should look out on Learn Local, Connect Global. And we got through the first question, and it was only a 3 to 5 minute video. And literally, both of her kids walked right into the camera. They get real close to her, like, who are you talking to? Like, who is that? Right? It's just a different way of working, and I think it's cool. I think we're about ready to roll. All right. So thriving in uncertain times. I told you the birthplace of this coming from leaders saying my team's struggling a little bit. If I'm honest and if I'm really being authentic with you, I would tell you I have struggled at times. And last week in particular is probably my most difficult week of being at home for the past 3+ months. And plus I know I'm not going back into an office anytime soon. I mean, it's looking like maybe September, but even that is up in the air. It could be through the rest of the year. In Charlotte, North Carolina, we've had our cases have not diminished, and we're not going to bring people into a situation where we just don't have stability around the number of COVID cases. And last week, it just kind of hit me, and I literally found myself every day at about 2 o'clock saying, I got to get out of here. I got to go. Like I literally have to get out of here. Have you been feeling like that, anyone? I mean, am I the only person that's been feeling a little bit stir crazy? I mean, talk to me in the chat. I mean, am I the only one? I don't think so. Like, I think it's all of us, right? Yeah, it's every single person here. I get that. So let's talk a little bit about what do we do with that. So for the next, how much time do we have left here? Next 45 minutes. All right, we're going to talk about what do we do about it. So managing self. So this is one of our leadership competencies, right? Managing self, etc. I'm not going down that path here. I'm talking about you personally. Emotional intelligence, I'm talking about how you handle you. It's a lot easier to point fingers at other people and say this is what you should be doing, but for me, it's like I had to take a look at myself and say, well, what am I doing about it? Like, why am I feeling so crazy right now? What is it that I've changed? Or is it just the culmination of everything coming up that made me feel like I needed to do something different? So I used my own advice and I asked myself the question, so how do you take care of yourselves in times of uncertainty? So you guys answer that question for me. All right. How can you take care of yourself during times of uncertainty? I'm going to take a little drink of coffee that's not spiked. Yep. Hobbies. Being goal oriented. I like that. Yeah. Calling friends. Yeah. Doing things that make you happy, right? Baking. Yeah. So how did this happen? So my wife works from home full time, right? And I used to have about an hour and 10-minute commute each way. And I would help with dinner when I could. I got home late usually, and she works from home, so we just kind of divided and conquered like that. Well, now that I'm working from home, that is now my full-time job. And I want to know how that happened. I'm trying to figure that out. But I kind of like it though because I'm actually enjoying what I eat. All right, so all these are good, right? Don't shut yourself off. Learning new skills. I mean, I love it. Exactly. We eat dinner together, having conversation. People are sitting out in the street, making new connections, right? All right, let's get a little more granular. All right, and I want your reaction to some of these here. All right, first, embrace the constants, right? These are the things that are not quite as movable as others. That can be like relationships, love interests. It could be you have a job, so you're feeling confident right now that you have a place to go every day. It could be that you're in this intern program and you have a plan and a schedule and opportunities for you to learn and to grow. Like find out what those constants are for you, right? It could be some of you may have kids, right? Some of you may be pets, like my dog is Brecken. She's a mini golden doodle, and that dog just loves me, and I know that, right? So it's a constant that I can just always look to that I know is going to be the same for me. Sometimes the constants can be issues, right? Sitting at the same desk, looking out the same window in the same corner of my house can also be a little bit of a drag, right? So we got to figure out how to change that up too. Get grounded, literally. And what this means is for those of us who live in North Carolina, someone once told me when I moved down here from Connecticut about 20 years ago that taking a walk in the grass in North Carolina right around dusk is the most incredible experience you'll have. I kind of laughed at them like grass is grass. I don't know what you're talking about until I did it. And then during this time, I've been reminded. So sometimes I just take my shoes off and I make sure I go in the opposite direction of the dog and walk with my feet in the grass. So that way it's just keeps me grounded and connected to the earth. And I'm not getting crazy psycho here a little bit, but I will tell you there's something about it. To go even further, a couple of weeks ago, I felt like I needed a day off, so I took a little mental health day and I went up to the mountains of North Carolina and walked a trail in Blowing Rock. And I found myself like walking this path around Bass Lake. If you've ever been there, it's a really great place to walk. You can walk all the way up to this home up on the mountain. And I found myself just touching the leaves and picking up sticks. And it kind of clicked like I needed just that connection again, right? So get grounded, breathe. So let's all do this together. If you haven't done it today, let's do a little slight meditation. Inhale, nice and let it go through your nose. It makes a difference. I know it's crazy, right? It's like I know that it's crazy. Eat well, sleep well, and exercise. All right. What I realized last week was I'd stopped riding my bike, which I was doing twice a day for about 30 to 40 minutes each time, pumping as hard as I could, getting my blood level up. And I decided I would get reacquainted with my best friends, Ben and Jerry. And it's not a good mix, right? So not eating well, not exercising was not the best thing. Help me here. Am I the only one that does that? Like, didn't exercise, eating, like all my friends came over. Sarah Lee stopped by, Drake's Cake stopped by. I'm just telling you, like all my gummy bear friends popped out of the box. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it. But really, eat well, sleep well, exercise. Connect, reconnect. You guys mentioned that already. Connecting with even people in this group. There might be someone that you don't really know here. Like you can actually, in this particular thing, pick somebody like who you send the chat to. If there's a name you don't recognize, drop down and pick Javier and say, "Hey Javier, I'm Tom. Nice to meet you. Can we connect on this? Can I have your phone number?" Well, you know what I'm saying? Like to connect via text and say hello. All right. It's tempting. 100% agree. Reconnect. This is a great opportunity too to look back on your past relationships and see where things have kind of fallen through the cracks. It can be people at school. It could be friends from high school. I mean, I will tell you now, like I don't do a lot of social media, but I have been going out to Facebook a lot more frequently than I have in the past. And love to be friends with you. to say hello. I don't know how I'm out there. It's Thomas W. Clark or Tom Clark. I don't know which one it is. But I'm also a pianist. So I've been sitting down and I've been playing some very just old songs. I grew up in church, so a lot of these old hymns that are very, very old that we don't sing anymore in any circle. I just started playing some of those and no one even knows what they are. And just posting them out there, did 3 or 4 of those just to let people have a quiet moment. And that let me reconnect with kids that I went to high school 30 plus years ago. Can't believe it's been that long. And sharing memories and sharing photographs from an old yearbook. Like, wow, I can't believe that was me. Using positive language. Talk in positive language to yourself, right? Not just to each other, but to yourself. Remember, you're not only talking to someone else, you're hearing every word you said. And usually twice because you plan it really quickly, even subconsciously, then you say it, and before you know it, you're believing what you said, right? So stay positive. This one's an important one. Find and recall your purpose. You guys are at a great place in your life because you're still figuring this part out. You know, for me, I've kind of known all along what I'm supposed to do. Not a job, not a title, not a paycheck, like my purpose. And what I would ask you to do is write it down. Like, what do you think your purpose is? Look at your history. Ask your family, ask your friends, like, hey, what do you think my purpose in life is? They may look at you a little crazy, but it allows you to start to really think about what you were put on this earth to do and who you were to help and what you were to fulfill, right? For many of us, very close friends of mine, the recent events have helped them kind of discover their voice and their path and what they're supposed to say and what they're supposed to do. So highly recommend you take some time, be deliberate. Just showing you my own little, I have little notebooks. This one here it keeps me on task. I do have a little to-do list, but it allows me to just jot down and write thoughts and notes. I highly encourage you to journal. Even now, start to write down your thoughts about where you are, about leadership, about work, about purpose, and then review it from time to time periodically. It's some of what I do with some of our own leaders is I make them journal for a couple weeks, then we talk about what they wrote, and it helps clarify what they're supposed to do, where they're supposed to be. All right, ask for help. I'm a firm believer in that. I am a firm believer in counseling and in therapy. I wasn't always that way in my life until I went through a dark spot in my own existence 23 years ago when my eldest son, who is now 22, was born. Mom was in delivery. Dad was in the ER. And I thought I had an allergic reaction to medication that I had taken, a Z-Pak. And sitting with the doctor goes, yeah, you're not sick. I'm like, I don't feel well though. Yeah, you're not sick. You're having a nervous reaction. Not a breakdown, but it really turned into something that wasn't good. And it made me realize I need help. And I got the help, and I will tell you, I've never had a recurrence, but I can sense when my body's telling me, check things out. We have services available to us within Corning. You guys may as well, especially if you're on a plan, some way, somehow, there's access for you. All right, not preaching, just saying take advantage of that, okay? And take some time away from work. That's critically important. And make sure you do that for the rest of your career. So I'm going to preach to all of you for 1 minute. The first time that you are given vacation time in a job and you don't take it all, I hope that it haunts you because we're given that time not because it's a nice perk. We're given it because we need to take it to recharge and to take care of ourselves. And I can't tell you how many years in the last 10 years I've not taken all my time. And I'm not doing that anymore because I know what it does to me. So take your time. All right. Yeah, I want to hear about some of those vacations too. How are we doing for time? Beautiful. I'm leaving plenty of time at the end for some Q&A. Driving at work. All right. So many of you are not quite into the full-blown, full-time work thing. Some of you are. Some of you went like I did. I worked 3 jobs and went to school full-time and got married at the same time. Wasn't the smartest decisions I've made, but that's how I did it, right? So how do you think you survive at work when times are uncertain? So help me out here in the chat. Talk to coworkers. Yep. Yeah. communication, asking for help. What else? Some jokes, I like it. Yep, have a little sense of humor, detached from the rest of the world events. I agree, turn the freaking news off. Right? I mean, seriously, I just can't handle it anymore. Organize your time, having positive thoughts, get feedback from coworkers, priorities. And you guys should teach this whole thing. Right, remember what you wanted to do, why you wanted that job in the first place, right? I think that that's incredibly important. Take yourself back. It goes to purpose to some degree, but really going back to why you took or did the job in the first place. Taking breaks. Yep. Completely agree. All right, let's see what I got here. All right, 1, accept the current reality. It is what it is. We can't change it. Like I have no control over when I go back into an office. I have no control over cases that are coming or going. I can control my exposure to them, and that in itself is difficult, right? Masking up, not masking up, you know, that whole deal. Do I go to Target or Walmart or, I mean, has anyone been brave enough to actually go sit in a restaurant yet and have dinner? I'm not there yet. And it's okay if you have. I mean, things are, we're kind of moving and changing, right? So I think what you're seeing even in there is yes and no. You have a continuum, like we all move at different times, right? But accept the current reality, even for work. I had to say to myself last week, your office is in your bedroom, and it's going to be there for the next at least 3 months. Suck it up, Buttercup. You can do this. It's not changing, right? Accepting the current reality, getting structured. I think that's, we underestimate the power of structure. And that, I mean, it starts with your day. So this morning, perfect example, alarm goes off, hits snooze 17 times. Okay, great. Got myself ready, got dressed, put on a shirt because I knew I'd be talking to all of you guys, not my typical garb. New York Yankee shirt. Don't hate me. Is there any hate in there yet? Yep. But get some structure around your day. Start, finish, block time, block your calendar for when you're going to get up. Take control of that day, be structured. A task list, to-do list. The reason for those, in my opinion, is that it gives you a sense of accomplishment, right? And it gives you focus on what you should do next. It allows you to prioritize the work, right? Be empathetic, even at work, to your colleagues, to your customers, especially if you're going to be in a customer-facing role, right? You have to understand that some of them are in places that are not great. Maybe their company is not really doing very well, and they've had to do layoffs too. So just being empathetic, and you'll hear me talk about emotional intelligence. This is incredibly important because it allows you to see things, even here. Like I can look at the panel and I can see who's happy to be here and who's like, all right, I'm not coming back to this one again. Who's laughing? I see the smile starting just by the jokes. Like, okay, they're somewhat working. Other people going like, no, he didn't just say that. Being tuned in, active listening, right? All of those things that let you be empathetic. Communicate with intentionally. What this means is don't just pick a text. So I know someone, all right, if you did it on purpose, I'll approve this for right now. There's some annotation tools. We'll see if that was on purpose. Don't just assume that texting or some other way of communicating not in person is the best way. Gauge the content of your conversation and then pick the phone up. And I will tell you, this will last you the rest of your life and your career. I don't care how enhanced our technology gets, right? There's nothing like hearing someone's voice and having a conversation, whether it's through a video chat or any other way, it doesn't really matter. But pick the phone up. So I almost said pick the damn phone up, but that would have been like talking to my kids. And you're not that, but I would tell, you know, my 3, and I do tell them, look, I want to hear your voice. I don't want just a text message in response. I want to hear you. I want to see you. You know, all of that. All right. Persevere, be resilient. Did you know the difference between the two? So what's the difference between perseverance and resilience? All right. Resilience is proactive, perseverance is reactive. I think that's not a way to look at it, right? So the definitions are persistence is, perseverance is persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success, right? It's persistence. You're going to go ahead and do it. You're going to fight through it. Resilience, it's the capacity to recover quickly from those difficulties. It's that mental toughness. It's the way to get back up again and do it again. So one is like pushing through. All right, here it comes. I'm going to react to what's happening around me. And the other is, all right, I got knocked down. I'm going to get back up again, and I'm going to capitalize. If someone asks a question like, how do you reward yourself for completing a task? I don't have an answer for you in particular. Maybe you look at your list and you say, after I do these 3, I get a break. I mean, we can all do our own behavior modification techniques if we like. You know, we tend to use Haribo, whatever you pronounce it, gummy bears. I complete a task, I can have one, right? That works for me. But figure out what it means for you. Like when you complete certain ones, if you look at your day and you need to do 20% of them, and once you do, then you get to have some free time doing a walk around the block. Last couple here, connect at an emotional level. I do believe heavily in, as you've heard, emotional intelligence. And I think that the reason that we struggle at work sometimes with our work relationships is there's no real emotion to them. They're mechanical. If any of you, how many of you are engineers or scientists? A lot of you? See hands going up a little bit. Yeah, a bunch of us, right? Probably most of us. Okay, I'm not. I'm the learning and teaching guy, right? So I come from that place of emotional connection. Sometimes, and this isn't a judgment, it's just my experience of working here at Corning. Sometimes those of us who are engineers, we tend to attack problems in a very systematic way of thinking, logical. I literally had one gentleman tell me when I said, why did you say that to that person? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it was pretty simple. A plus B equals C, and we got to move forward. I mean, it's really not that hard, which was a true statement, right? But he forgot the people part and how they would react to how he was addressing them. Like the way he said what he said, they felt like it was condescending, etc. Right? So I think we have to watch out for, those things for us. Like how do we talk to people? How do we connect with them? Even when we disagree, how do we disagree? There's a little model, it's called the trigger model in emotional intelligence. And this is when someone says something to you and before you know it, you got an answer for them and you're just waiting for them to shut up, right? They said that magic word. Or if you're in a relationship, maybe it's your significant other that every time he or she says something, it's like, yep, there you go again. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? I remember when this happened, and before you know, you're arguing and fighting over something that is not the issue. It's the fight over the fight. That happens at work too, right? Until you can get to an emotional level and you can trust that the person may be coming at you from a place that's really authentic, and you can be authentic too. You build the trust, etc. It's hard to do that. So I would say for all of us, let's just be careful about how we say what we say. Man, I sound like my father. Cool. Last, execute. So I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that Corning's culture is about results. We still live in a place where we're not a nonprofit, right? We're not a not-for-profit. We are a company of profit. That means we still have to make money for our shareholders, which is all of us, our employees, our communities, etc. I mean, we are here to still execute. So you can be the nicest person in the world and be loved by everybody, but if you're not executing, your time here is probably not going to be too long. We still need results. And to me, that's the awesome time is you can do both at the same time. And it isn't a choice of one or the other, right? Sometimes we think it is. All right, what's a good way to tell someone that they came off in a condescending, that's great. So if you come back for the courageous conversations, Tuesday with Tom. We'll talk about that. I actually have a little model that I'll share with you on how to have these really courageous conversations. I personally look at it and I'm not always great at it. I've worked really hard at it. And it really comes first with your perspective and trying to understand theirs, right? So that's the simple way. But come back for that one in, do you know when that one is, Jessica? Is like week 3, 4, 7, 12. How many weeks we have of this till Christmas, right? We'll figure out what that one is, but
no. Hold on, I can pull it up right now. It is, I'm not working with a virtual team. I think it's the week after. Oh, actually, it's one of our last ones.
okay.
Yeah, it's actually the final week is when we have Courageous Conversations on the 28th of July.
Yeah, what's really cool about that one is I'm going to actually make you have a conversation in the confines of your own little space. So you're going to be talking out how you would say things to a non-existent person. So give everyone around you an alert. You're not going crazy. You're not talking to the wall or the cat, but you're actually practicing a conversation, right? We'll get more into that. I know me. I do that too, Jenna. I mean, I have conversations with myself all the time. And they used to tell me that if you have answers, if you get an answer to the questions you're asking yourself, then you're a little crazy. Then I am insane because I'm talking to myself all day, every day. But to answer the question, a good way to tell somebody that they came off in a condescending way, I mean, I think we owe it to each other to tell the truth. And we're afraid to have those conversations sometimes. And even with our own family members. Like I have a brother that's a pretty wrong-headed individual. But I'm probably the only one in my family that said was, hey, Matt, you sounded like a jerk. Now, I wouldn't recommend you start like that, right? He and I have a lifetime of togetherness that we can talk to each other that way. If it's someone else, I would say to them, Jessica, when you said that my content really wasn't that engaging and that you would never come back again, let me tell you how I interpreted that and how it made me feel. It made me feel like you didn't value the effort that I put into putting this together for this group of people and the amount of time and effort it takes to build something like this. Can you understand how that would make me feel? Can you tell me where that came from? See how long that took? Like literally 12 seconds. It wasn't like, I can't believe you said that about me, Jessica. What the hell? I mean, then you're fighting. By the way, sorry, I may say hell every now and then, or I'll try not to use other bad words. But you get the point, right? So that's one way you can de-escalate it. And there's a whole model around, you hear it, you internalize it, you create your own story, and then you go after it. Not always good. Cool, thanks for the dialogue, appreciate it. How are we doing for time? We're doing pretty good. Oh man, we are golden. All right, let's get back in here. All right, last, creating your future. All right. I think that this one's a good one for everybody. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, etc. So here's a question for you, right? How can you plan for the future during these times of uncertainty? Tell me what you would do. How you can do that? All right, Mackenzie, set goals. So what do you mean? Need a little more than that. Yeah, work on yourself and your skills, research interests, have backup plans, focus on the things that are concrete. Mm-hmm. Yep, like them. Yeah, love it. Be aware of the variables, right? Think about strategies, how you're going to overcome them. You know, write down what you want to accomplish. So you see, we all have kind of similar themes, right, as to what we're thinking about what we can do. Be realistic. Yeah. Okay. So this is the balancing act that I try and do, right? Because Tom is a dreamer and I'm a musician, so I tend to be more on the creative side of things. I don't like a lot of structure, as you guys can probably tell, right? But I need structure and I appreciate it when it comes and people bring it to help me. So I really try and balance between the reality of the situation and the dream or vision I have of what the ultimate could be. Again, what's the tension between them? And if there's a tension, can I break the tension? Can I work around it? Is it reality? Is it not? How do I, right? Then I get into this whole brainstorming thing myself. Yeah, love that. Thanks for that, guys. Learn something new. All right. So here's what I got. So remember, this was going to a bunch of people that have been at home and out of an office for what, 3 months, 4 months, trying to plan for what that reentry looks like, mentally, psychologically, and physically. Like, we know when we go back into an office, we've already been told you're going to get scanned when you walk in. We're going to check your temperature. You're going to be wearing a mask. We're going to have different cleaning protocols. We're going to have different room setups within the conference rooms. That means that instead of everyone being around the table, someone might be sitting in a corner. We're going to have staggered work schedules. We're going to have staggered seating. So you may have a staggered day. It's like getting yourself mentally ready for what that looks like. Making sure you have hand sanitizer, which we're starting to be able to find now. Just don't buy the one that has menthol in it because it's not healthy for you. Just learn that, right? I know you're laughing because you appreciate those little tidbits that I throw in, but you're making a plan for, okay, what that's going to be like. All right. And when you know the time's getting closer, some of us have changed our own sleep schedules and patterns a little bit because we don't have to get up and spend an hour getting dressed every day, right? You may have to rethink what that looks like and get into a different routine. Inventory some lessons learned about yourself during this time. I go back to, your purpose and finding them, look at all of this and do some reflection. In that journal, personally, I hated working from home. I did it for like 5 years at Bank of America because my team was virtual all over the country. And the office was right down the street, but I worked from home literally like all the time. I'd go in once a month. And I learned that I really didn't like it a whole lot. But here again, I'm back at it again. And what I've learned is I can do things differently the next time, and I can take a little more time for myself. So maybe I do work from home more frequently, and I plan my day differently, and I make it a connected day. So that's what I'm doing. Create a positive story. Hey, we're going to get through this. My dad used to always tell me, you can tell he's my hero. My dad used to always tell me when I would go to him and things would not be going real well. My son one time was very, very ill. And it was just a crazy time. And my dad would say to me, just kind of a simple man, 8th grade education, living on a lake, made a great life for himself. And he would say, it's going to be all right, son. And I looked at him and said, would you stop telling me that? Like, it's not all right. Like, I don't have any answers. I don't know what to do. I got to make a decision about what we do. Like, it's not all right. And he said, yeah, it is. It's going to be all right. You're not always going to be here. You're not always going to be in this place. You have to try and get yourself there. Great words of wisdom. Time you're going to make it through. Zachary's going to be perfectly fine. This is going to happen. Talk to yourself positively, like create the positive story. Invest in your growth. You guys got that. You're doing that now. Now is a great time. We're not out and about as crazy as much as we used to be. What are those things that you want to do? Like, that could include cooking. That could include writing a book. It could be picking up a volunteer cause that you can do virtually, right? What about school's out for a while? Some of you are going back, some of you are done, some of you are doing master's programs, etc. What do you do in the meantime to keep yourself sharp, right? What do you do when virtual class starts again in the fall semester? Like, are you prepped for that? Showing empathy to others. When you give to others, you just feel better. Help those in need. That may take on the form right now of giving more than anything else. And what I'll tell you is, you may not have a ton of money to throw around. Like, a lot of people don't. But you can donate $5, right? Maybe you say, I'm not going to get Starbucks today, or I'm going to, find a way to give to something that really matters to you, like a cause that you want to support, right? And just even hitting that little send button and you see a little $5 go, because that's what you have. I'm a firm believer that, like, what you have in your hand is what's required of you. It's not the multitudes that comes later. That will come for you because you will be successful. All of you will be. And you'll make a difference on this planet. You'll make a difference in humanity. But it's going to be a journey. So what do you have in your hand now? My father used to always tell me too, like, son, you got to open your hands to release some things to get something else, right? So I would say to you, like, what do you need to release a little bit? And it could be $5. It could be, you know, championing a cause on Instagram, or I don't know, figure out what that is. And then recommit yourself to your education, to your purpose, to your work, etc. And I promise you, if you kind of take some of these things into consideration, you start to make an actual plan for it, and you write things down and you start to rethink through, then it lightens the load a little bit. And before you know it, we're out of the mess and we're on to the new norm, whatever that is. So that's really what I have for you. And what I would like to do for the next few minutes here is, we still have 13 minutes left, is, did I say anything that you have questions about? And here, let's try this, all right? I know there's a lot of us. If you have a point that you'd like to make, or if there's a question you want to ask, take yourself off of mute, click the little red little microphone, and come off mute, and I'd like to hear some voices. Bueller? Bueller. Have you seen the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off? I mean, it's an old one, it's my time, but there was a scene in the classroom where they were calling roll, and the guy would just, Bueller? Bueller?
I was actually wondering if any of them had seen that movie, so.
See if you have. Might be a good one to catch up on. It was pretty funny. Anyone?
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this. It's been great. I've been learning so much. But I have one small question. So how do you deal with the feeling that you're a little bit like overwhelmed? There's too much uncertainty going on in terms of, let's say, my career, my education. Nothing is like set in stone, and that's overwhelming in some sense.
I mean, it's fair. It's a great question. Is it Johanna? Is that how you say pronounce your name?
Yes, I just go by Malika, my last name.
I love it. Malika, so what I would tell you is you are not alone in that. And there are moments when someone asks me, like, how you are, like, how you doing, Tom? It could be my brothers. I have two brothers. It could be, sometimes it's even my kids. Like I told you, I have three kids. One just graduated NC State. I have another one that's going to be a senior at UNC Greensboro, and then I have a 15-year-old in high school. So even they sometimes will say, "Hey, how you doing, Dad?" And like, there's been times when I wanted to just fake it and say, "It's all good, man. It's all good." But I've learned that I'm going to be authentic. So what I'd say is, if someone asks you, say, "Look, I'm a little overwhelmed. And hopefully it's someone you trust and you can have a dialogue and they'll help you get through it." What I've also learned is, and let me show you something else here. I'm so glad you asked the question, because it's such a relevant topic for me, because I told you last week was a tough week for me. All right. Can you all see my screen, the Tom Clark June 2020 projects and updates? See my document?
Yes.
All right. So due to our current financial state, a lady who used to work for me, we were a great team. She took another job about a year ago, and I've not been able to backfill her. And she did a lot of work. I mean, a lot of administrative kind of work. She helped support me in setting things up, and she helped me with logistics, and she was just a phenomenal talent. Well, I've not had that now for almost a year, and I couldn't understand last week why I just couldn't get my stuff together. So what I did was, I'm like, I'm gonna have a conversation with my boss, and I'm gonna tell her how overwhelmed I am. Now look, I'm over 50. I won't tell you how much over, but I'm a little bit over that. And I'm thinking I should have a handle on this. When I sat down and I actually started writing down what it was that I was working on, wow, okay, no wonder I'm overwhelmed. And the discussion my boss and I will have about this next week is, are these still the right priorities for me? And if they are, can I get some help? Can you help a brother out? Can I get some resources? I'm talking with brothers. I have a brother who does wealth management at Wells Fargo. He got the brains and the money in the family, and he's a trusted resource. He and I have talked quite a bit. My older brother, who is kind of done a bunch of crazy things in his life. He's the brave one that's not afraid of anything. I talk to him and tell him the truth. So I would say to you, tell the truth. Talk to somebody and say, I'm overwhelmed, man. I can't take it. Can you help me get myself together for a minute and make a plan? All right. And if you do that, just saying it out loud makes you feel a little better. Me, it was typing it to go, I'm not crazy. I'm not nuts. This is a lot of stuff. Great question.
Yes. Thank you so much.
More minutes, other questions?
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
So I appreciate kind of the more personal take on this presentation, but I did want to talk about how Corning as a kind of a company was handling this as well, if you could humor me on that. And I guess I was wondering, it's like obviously Corning is a for-profit company, like most companies are that aren't charities. But I was wondering how do you go about the process of supporting your workers and like being there for your community while still holding on to kind of still staying afloat in a slump like this?
Man, I think that's another great question, right? So as an employee, I read the headlines too, right? I get it. I mean, I know what's happening. I get the place that we're in, which is a very vulnerable place as a company where revenue is not where it was prior to year over year. The division that I am part of was actually already having a little bit of a difficult time. So we'd already had a couple of downsizing over the past year prior to this year. I will tell you what we've done as a company, and I can't go into all the details, but I will tell you our leadership, they went into what we call rings of defense. And the way that this is described to me from one of our general managers is that you have to look at your reality and you have to figure out how do we continue forward? Like, how do we move forward? Like, if this is the core and we got to protect it, we got to keep it. All right, let's look at the rings outside like an onion and say, all right, out here, we can trim this out. We come in a little closer because it's tighter. Now we have to adjust this part. That could mean looking at your projects and your capital spend. We did that. We stopped some spend immediately. Others, even that may have a revenue impact in 2020, 2021, we said we're going to hold that for right now because we need to conserve cash. We looked at employees, we looked at furloughs, we looked at benefits that the government had offered to us to help others. All right, so we did those business type of things. Then we looked at people, and we looked at, all right, let's make sure we're investing in people and giving them a reason to stay with the company because we don't want talent to walk out the door, right? So we've done some work around shared opportunity where, all right, in order for us to make it through this, maybe we take a pay cut here and we look at the opportunity on the other side of that, right? So those are some things that the company has done to persevere, to thrive during this time, to take care of the business and the people in it. And then we're doing sessions like this globally, where we're trying to make sure people feel connected, they feel embraced. We're having leaders go out and do listening sessions, especially around Black Lives Matters, right? We talk a lot about diversity, et cetera, and I think we want to be a very diverse company, but we're not always. So doing sessions where we're listening to our Black colleagues that tell us how recent events have impacted them, how they're impacted at work, telling their stories about injustice that they've experienced in their lifetime that I never have, right? So I think we're trying to do a little bit of everything, connect with people, keep the business together, prioritize, recapitalize, survive, and while we're surviving, execute, and then we get to the other side. Great question.
Thank you.
All right, we got time for a few more.
So thank you so much for the great presentation. I think this was so helpful, something that I kind of needed a reminder of, especially. But I just, from my personal experience, I think it's been a bit of a juggle for me to manage the work and, my personal goals. and the relationships I have, like with my mom, my dad, my brother, my boyfriend. Like, how do you in your personal life kind of balance both? Because sometimes it's like, oh, you're just at home and you have all this time, but it's also like, well, I have these personal goals that I'm trying to accomplish. So how do you juggle between them?
So maybe the best way in your particular case is use a schedule. I heard someone that actually posts their schedule on their door in their home, and it tells them when they're in meetings and when they're available, right? Or they use an open closed door. Even with little kids, like the kids know if the door's closed, mom's not available. So you can use a little bit like that, and especially if you're all in the same house. Build time in for you to have that flexibility to manage the personal side. What I tell people, and actually what Gabriela Medellin told us all, is she's a senior executive in her company. She's at director level. Her husband, who also works for Corning, works in a plant. So he's not even home. Kids are 7 and 4, very young. Had all homeschooling because school shut down. So she's trying to manage and balance all of these things. And I said, how'd you do it? And she said, well, honestly, I had to make a plan. I had to do meal prep on Saturday and Sunday. My husband and I would cook, so I knew what was there. I had to prepare snacks like every night. So when the kids were hungry, they knew where to go get it, and I made those available. The one time I didn't, her 4-year-old ate a pound of gummy bears in 1 hour. Not a good situation. So I think you're gonna have to compartmentalize just a little bit, right? And set those boundaries and make it clear. Here's when I'm available. Here's when I'm not. Build in the breaks though. Someone put that in the chat. Build in those breaks to where I started blocking my time, and like I need 30 minutes here and no one's going to take it. It's called block for Tom, and no one can take that time. Start there. Communicate, right? And if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to tell them all, look, I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now. I need a little bit of space. I'm going to go out and take my laptop and I'm going to go work in the park. That works too. A little helpful.
For sure. I unfortunately cannot go to the park. The restrictions are a little tighter in India, but I still think what you said makes sense a lot. So thank you so much.
Pure thing. Another question.
Hey there, Tom. Can you hear me? I have a weird headset on.
I can't believe you do that and bring it. No, yes, you're good.
Definitely appreciate the presentation. Look forward to joining more of them throughout the summer. One thing that you said that really stuck with me was gauge the depth of the conversation, then pick up the damn phone. I absolutely love that. I think that that's something that people need to do a lot more. But for you and your personal experience with the people who don't operate that way, do you have any way to break down those walls that are kind of unwritten where people don't want to be doing that?
You know, I think everything starts at the relationship level all the time, right? So there are individuals that sometimes, I mean, they'd rather just shoot you a one-liner in a text and be done. Sometimes it may be, hey, can we chat for a minute? Or you set up a one-on-one on their calendar. And your first thing is, listen, me personally, I sometimes need to hear your voice. It just helps me a little bit. So make it about you, not about them. Like, I need to hear your voice. I want to bounce things off you. I like to do a little brainstorming. I had a previous boss. So he actually is now the chief HR exec of Corning, Rob France. You guys may have had a chance to meet him. He was my boss prior to taking this job. And when we first started, he set up one-on-ones once a month for 30 minutes. And I'm like, you all saw my list, right? Well, that's been my list. How am I going to communicate what I'm doing? I got priorities 30 minutes in a month. I can't do it. And we had a conversation. I'm like, Rob, I think I need more than that. His response to me was, I don't think you do. This works. Let's try it. I'm always here if you need me. And I had to learn that when I really needed him, I would ping him and say, or text him and say, Rob, I need 10 minutes. And that's when I would get it. But it took me reaching out to him to say I needed that. And now, granted, he was open. If the person you're talking to is not open, then I think you got to have a courageous conversation about, listen, I need this from you. And if you're not able to just talk with me, I don't know how long we're going to be able to survive in our work relationship. right? It's no different than a personal relationship. If you got someone that doesn't want to talk to you, that you want to be intimate with, it's kind of hard to maintain that relationship. Kind of the same at work, right?
Absolutely.
So ask, ask, ask.
Cool. That makes sense. I'm working with long distance, so a healthy level of availability is really nice. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. And look, guys, I will tell you that, I mean, for me, I am literally doing chat. I have a chat window open that's work, not just this chat. People are texting me, like, and that's just a new way that we work, right? So there's multiple ways to do it. But it's the moment I feel like uncertain, I'm calling somebody, picking up the phone. Even if they don't want to hear me, I'm like, hey, can we chat? Or I'm just going to call them. Look, I know that we're at time, and I really appreciate the effort and I appreciate the energy. You know, those of you dialing late and early in the morning in different parts of the world, different parts of the globe, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Like, I'm grateful for it. And I want to leave you just with a little closing thought here. All right. We learn from the past, but we live in the present. We need a plan for the future, though. So you heard me tell you a little earlier that I'm a dreamer. What I would, if I could go back and talk to me when I was your age, here's what I would tell me. There are great things ahead of you, Tom. And you need to dream big. You need to think big. Have a bigger vision for yourself than you can even imagine. And then go do those things that you dreamed about. I'm telling you the same, folks. Dream big. Like, what are those big, hairy, audacious, BHAG things? I don't even know where that acronym came from. That you feel like you want to accomplish in your life, like, and go after them and do them. And sometimes it means you can do them at work. Other times work can help fund those things, right? I know a guy that loves to do missionary work where he goes and digs wells. Well, he works, gets paid to do his day job, he takes his vacation and he goes and digs wells, right? His work helps fund the things that he feels called to do. But you got to have a plan still, right? It doesn't just happen. No one will hand you anything. You still need a plan. And just remember this too, tomorrow will take care of itself by the time we get there. So plan for tomorrow, but don't let it create anxiety in you because it's going to have its own cares and its own worries, right? Wait till you get there and then attack those. Appreciate y'all. Hope this has been helpful. And looking forward to the next time.
Thank you so much, Tom. This was so great. I'm so looking forward to your entire series. Everybody who's still on the call, tell your friends. I saw a lot of happy faces during this. So I think there's a lot of people that could benefit from these weekly presentations. So just a little plug for Tom, spread the word about his series. And thank you everyone for attending today. The recording will be available at the end of the week.
Love, I mean it.
And
Take care of yourselves.
have a good week.
Awesome presentation, Tom.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. You guys take care of yourselves. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you in a week.
All right.
Hey,
thank you so
by the
much.
way, if anyone wants to, give them my email or my contact information. I'm happy to chat with any of you. I'm available.
Okay, I can include it then.
All right. Stay safe, guys.
Thank you.
You better shut the fuck up. I don't give a fuck out of here. Get your motherfucking ass off before you get slapped too, bitch. Fuck you. Fuck you. Ass bitch. Crack ass bitch. I'll beat the fuck out of you. What? Yeah, on camera. On camera. Yeah, on camera. Leave me alone. God, you crackers. Yeah. He's getting in your car. Camera off, can't do this job. He's getting in your car. Never been on the plantation, brother. I never been on the plantation, brother. I never been on the plantation, have you? You been on the plantation? So don't ask me about me then. Yeah, okay. You're not gonna make me shut up, brother. You can talk all jazz all you want to. Yeah, okay.
With everything that we're seeing going on in Minneapolis, I mean, with the police defunding and all of that, how does that affect the community there?
So just to summarize it, right? Yeah. Majority of the people that are there, so they burned down my community. That was my community. That's where I used to hang out at down there on Lake Street, right? So, but here's the thing, just in a nutshell. The police. But see, this is typical of liberal policies. They only want what's best for them in that moment, not longevity.